This is a full-time program. The students are here 9 to 3, and within that 6 hours, 5 hours of it is learning. They're hearing the language and they're learning the language.
Because there's so many things we can't say. There's so many contradictions to what we can do in the paradigm. Right. Like, because we can do that and we would understand each other. And the one that laughs and says, "You can't say that." Like, well, it makes sense.
There's people that can pick up the language very quickly and speak. And myself, I must have been shy.
Segoli, kunggude nianggets, wage skle wagu, ni wagi teloda, oneo daaga, ni waga honjoda, wagat sanuni, ga iges, ga stechi, kale ne kele huni, ne cheat wagio dansta. I'm a teacher's assistant for Twatati program here. I help Erica Gatnigiost. She's the lead teacher, lead instructor.
I've been learning language since I was 19, around there. The first few years actually that I started learning, it kind of felt like it was kind of an unattainable goal to be able to comprehend in the language, just because it sounded so complicated and the words sounded so different, and it was really difficult to know what patterns were in it. I couldn't identify any patterns or any real comprehensions.
The more that I've learned a language, it adds to the understanding like much deeper. Like the language puts our culture in much more perspective than it does in English.
That's where that word comes from. And then way back when our people saw an animal, a real big animal like that with no fur, no hair, that's what they made reference to, is because he's bare, he's naked. So that's how that word comes to be. So.
Our language is more descriptive of how we see things, like even names of animals, and that it was a description of how they looked.
What I found is that we're asking them questions, they stare, and I go, "What are you looking about?" And they say, I'm trying to picture it so that I can describe it to you. They see pictures.
And that kind of learning that they have, we will never have as learners, because that's their first language, whereas we have to learn the word. So all that description that they're giving, we don't have. We just kind of learn that word as that thing. We can break it up, but we'll never get that true meaning like they were raised with. So that's the difference for us. And so it's good when especially when he comes in here, he just gives us much more meaning of the word.
So it wasn't until I started learning the root word method through Ganatuwagon that I really started to understand the way that our language is built. And I really started to believe that it would be possible for me to be able to speak it and understand it.
There's more of a concentration of the language that you're getting coming to Twatati than you would perhaps working 2 hours a week.
In the first part of the curriculum, we learn about people. We learn how to say children, adults, younger people, and then older people. So we learn those terms, and then we learn about saying people's names. And then in the next unit, we learn about family terms. So how people are related to each other. My family, your family, his family, her family, those are all different terms. When we work with that content in the curriculum, they're learning how to identify subjects. They're learning how to identify nouns and verbs. And they're also learning how to identify tenses. So past tense, present tense, future tense. And they're also learning how to identify particles.
We use the speakers quite a bit. They're much needed here because we're not fluent. We're second language learners.
We need to work as hard as we can so that as second language speakers, when we pass that on, or the younger people, when they have families, they're gonna raise their kids with the language. We need to find a way in 5 years to do that, where they're gonna get that first piece. We're not gonna get it. Maybe our kids won't get it, but maybe their kids will. Maybe, right?
That's what we have to do. We have to be able to speak. That's how our language is going to continue.
As we progress, then we move into like nations and clans and those kind of relationships. And then we move into different locations. So it's kind of like being able to be a place, be here or be there, and then different places, I guess, local to where we are.
When you invert the culture over the language, or the language becomes the culture, and you reculturify yourself, you re-language yourself to center on Ungahuanage. It's a choice. It's a physical act, and when you think that way and become that way, you will have to name things. You will have to name the trees. You have to name the grass.
Candy, good candy, sugar.
Wisconsin. Honey
I think one of the biggest rewards is when we see the language use in the community. When we have, and it's mainly like when we have losses in the community, you'll see all of our students there helping the family and helping put those ceremonies and those proceedings through, and they're using the language when they do it.
That means to accept.
So we covered the subject, we covered the tenses, also negating and asking questions, and then the particle usage. So those things are all identified in the color system that we've been teaching them since the very first day of the program. And so, but we've only used it in the classroom and curriculum context. So this example here is what we've used to reinforce to them what we're doing here in the first place. And what we're doing here in the first place is to preserve who we are as a people. We do evaluations, we do testing for each unit, and we are required, everyone's required to have a pass in order to move on. So we do testing, we do a retest.
Potatoes, because they're still, forever revising it. The Homeland's always revising it. But then he doesn't catch all of it either.
As instructors, we're finding, we assess our students, but it's always like more or less to evaluate ourselves, that we're doing, the job that we need to be doing in order for our students to understand. You can't see the commitment and the connection that they have to their identity and how that's evolved looking at their test scores. It doesn't show that in there.
The ultimate goal is to get the language in the home, and to kind of bring back the language in the community too, like spoken in public, because it's not very common anymore.
No one's done this before in Oneida. We're the first ones. We're the first second language speakers that are teaching in a full-time adult language program, utilizing the root word method, utilizing a curriculum, developing lesson plans and activities, all based on that curriculum. We're doing it.
We all learn differently. This is one way, Twatati, to learn to speak and to learn the language.
They're here every day, they're putting in the time, they study when they're at home, and they're doing this with their whole heart, like every single day. And you can see it here, and it shows. And everyone's, starts to become like a family, and they really start to take care of each other and encourage each other in their learning. So there's like healing involved in this. There's a spiritual growth that's involved in this. There's a wellness that we have to learn to maintain when we're learning our language. And so it goes beyond just getting good test marks.
For anybody that's learning to stick in there, and it's worth it. Like, it's definitely worth it. And my mind has changed in there for good, for the better. Now that I've come to understand more of our language.
I think the main thing about our program is we encourage people to come with an open mind and the understanding that all of us are still learning. Even the fluent speakers that come to help us, everyone's still learning, and that everyone has something of value to offer. It's about knowing what makes us unique, and what our unique identity is Onyotaaga, Ungohoe people, and it's all in the language.